Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today I want to show how and when to use opaque white, such as white gouache or Chinese white. This painting of a horse being exercised on a beach in the early morning shows how the darks and lights can really bring a painting to life. So let me show you how I achieved this image. This is Saunders Waterford 300 gram rough paper, and I'm working on dry paper, so this is just a very simple sky with a wash of cerulean blue and a touch of cobalt blue, carefully painting around the rider and the top of the horse, but not too fussy around the legs because they're going to be much darker later in the painting, and going into the area of the sea as well, just with some clear water. For the beach I'm using yellow ochre, fairly strong mix because I want it to dry a little bit darker because I'm going to be using the opaque white over it, and if the wash is too light, the opaque white doesn't really show up very well. For the sea, I'm going to be using a mixture of Prussian blue and a touch of sap green. Prussian blue has a slight green bias anyway, but a little drop of sap green just makes it that bit more of a sea colour. Again, just using some clear water as the sea gets nearer to the shore, just to lighten the wash. Just dropping in a few darker patches to indicate some waves just rolling in and breaking, just very low waves, just as they break on the shore really. I use the side of a brush for the distant sea just to create a little bit of texture. I've let that dry. Patience is everything with watercolour, so just take your time, let things dry. Use a hairdryer if you must, but try and let things dry. Again, this is yellow ochre in a very pale wash for the undercoat, first wash of the horse's body. For the rider, I'm using a touch of purple and some cobalt blue for the gilet. Just lifting out a few lighter patches where the light's hitting the body of the rider. This is just neutral tint for the riding hat, and the same for the boots, riding boots, and the saddle, of course. I've noticed on the right that the horizon is lifting up a little bit, so I'll correct that at the end, and I'll show you how you can correct a little mistake like that. For the horse, I'm now using burnt sienna and blending in with some sepia for the horse's body. I'm using the the original light wash and burnt sienna for where the sun is hitting the horse, the early morning sun, and the adding a fairly strong sepia mix for the parts of the horse that are more in shadow. Trying to keep it wet in wet and blending together so that there are no hard lines. And for the legs of the horse, this is a really strong mix of sepia with a touch of ultramarine to darken it to almost black. And I'll be using the same colour, I think, for the tail of the horse once this is dry. Just a light grey mix for the rider's shirt and trousers. Just using a touch of cadmium red for the face and the hand of the rider. Now that's dry, I'm painting the tail with that strong mix of sepia and a touch of cold ultramarine, and then using a dry flat brush just to feather out the end of the tail, give it a bit of life. Just darkening the shadow area on the rear of the horse. Just dragging out a few highlights with the palette knife there. Starting to use the white gouache now with the side of a rigger brush just to indicate where those little waves are just breaking on the shore. Nice dry brush effect using the side of a brush. And the same where the water's lying on the beach, you get patches of foaming water, white foam, and just indicate the edge of the waves with the tip of the rigger. And then with the side of the rigger, just drag it across and pick up the texture of the paper to create that look of foaming water as the waves wash in and roll out again. It's this sort of painting that I would advocate using an opaque white like white gouache, because if you try to do this effect with masking fluid, you'll never get it the same. It's a difficult medium to use, masking fluid, at the best of times. I prefer to use it when I need either a very random splatter effect or very straight lines. But using the side of a brush with a rigger, or you could use a round brush to create this textured effect, it gives the look of foaming water on the shore. And as I said earlier, the slightly darker sand colour helps the white to show through. It has a tendency to dry a little bit light sometimes, opaque white, so let it dry and then go over it again if you have to get some brighter white highlights like I'm doing here. And then I've just lifted out with a damp brush some of that horizon on the right just to level it off a little bit, and I think I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. A little bit sped up this video, but it was quite a long process painting it, so didn't want you to be bored. Please give the video a like if you liked it and found it useful. Do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. Thanks again for watching.